All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. This is ATG Radio. I'm Big Time Tim Cuddish. Joining me as always, Michael Dawson, Rufus Deffenbaugh. How's it going, guys?
Great. Great to be live. A lot to talk about, a lot of crazy shit in boxing. I can't wait to get yours, Rufus's, and maybe even Frank's input on what's going on in the wild world of boxing right now. And Twitter boxing, just it's all going crazy.
What's going on with you, Rufus?
Not much, gentlemen. I can't wait to get down to brass tacks talking about everything going on in the world of boxing this week. A lot of big shit going on in Saudi Arabia for sure.
Yeah, the big heavyweight showdowns are going down last weekend. Just to recap real quick, we saw Jake Paul annihilate the Rhino, Ryan Borland, within a round.
I'm pouring a little for my homie.
Wasn't a great fight. It wasn't great competition for Paul, but hats off to Paul paying Serrano and her opponent after Serrano found the physical right before the fight.
Well, hair gel KO won Amanda Serrano.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. I don't know if it's Vidal Sassoon, what but whoever it was, KO won. They said she had hair gel. She was putting in her hair and it fell into her eye 36 hours before the fight. And, I've had hair gel, hairspray. I mean, I could probably find a day later. I don't know. That's what I heard. I don't know. Conspiracy theory, in boxing in the last, 7 days, there's been a lot of conspiracy theories about everything in boxing. Ryan Garcia, we'll touch on that later. But yeah, that's what was said was that she had hair gel in her eye. The doctor said that she couldn't fight. It happened 36 hours before. Nobody knew about it. Tito Trinidad was announced, but he couldn't fight an exhibition, but they had to cancel it, and there was a lot of pissed off Puerto Rican fans in the building.
Yeah, I can imagine because it goes from Serrano to Jake Paul as the main event, and that fight did not give the fans their money's worth.
No, and the Puerto Rican fans were some of the best fans, dude, and they don't want to hear, from Serrano that she can't fight. I mean, right when she's about to walk out, she walks out and then says she can't fight. They were booing the place. And to be honest with you, I felt bad for her. I mean, she's a hell of an ambassador for women's boxing. There's nothing not to love about Amanda Serrano. She brings in heart every time she fights. She's a hell of a fighter. I hated to see her go out like that. Can she rebound? Possibly, but man, it's definitely going to hurt her career with Puerto Ricans, especially, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, but ultimately, what I was thinking is it's just it was a class act by Jake Paul. Getting the opponent paid, even though the opponent did a fight. Serrano, everybody taken care of. It's a good check mark for boxing right there.
Well, he just announced another fight. I can't remember who it is. It's actually a pretty decent fight. It's an undercard, pretty much event. 11-0. I think Gabriel Iglesias, Cuban fighters on that card as a main event. But again, nothing from Amanda Serrano. You would think that if you're going to do a fight sometime this month or next month, that you would at least put her on that fight or on that card at least. So he announced the card already, and she's not on it. So I don't know what to think about this situation. I wouldn't think hair gel would last 60 days where you can't fight. I don't know about your hair gel, Tim, but my hair gel doesn't kick that much ass.
I've only worn hair gel 3 times in my life.
And did it kick your ass for 60 days?
It did not.
There you go. Rufus,
yeah.
Is your hair gel badass like that?
I've been bald since I was 20, so make of it what you will.
So possibility, your hair gel was awesome. You put it in there and went bald when you were 20. Or was it hereditary?
Hereditary.
There you go. Well,
Did you
I
see?
still don't know what to think. Go,
I
go
saw a
ahead.
crazy announcement today. I didn't even realize he was back. He's fought twice this year. But there's a big fight on Pro Box TV between Joseph Adorno and Nicholas Walters. He's back. We haven't seen him for a long time. Well, I mean, he did fight twice in 2023.
Now he fought once, and Lomachenko pretty much took the soul out of him, and took what 8 years of fighting out of him. He was a
Yeah,
hell
I
of a
mean,
prospect,
he's a hell of a prospect. He
champion.
beat some big names. Then he went against Jason Sosa to really an upset draw. And then,
Knocked out Donaire.
yeah, he did knock out there. And Darchinian.
Yeah, he was a champion, dude. And you hear people knock, Lomachenko. He wasn't that good because he only has 15 fights or whatever they were, talking at that time. He literally took Nicholas Walker's spirit away from his body, you know. But 8 years away from the ring, that fight was brutal. But I want to see him back. He went to decision in his last fight against the guy he was supposed to do that against. Um, he might have some left. I think he's 37. The guy was a hell of a talent. I wish boxing wouldn't have took him away that long, or Lomachenko wouldn't have took him away that long. But he has that factor, that it factor. Let's see what he has left.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing what he has left. I'm looking to see if it's a new lease on life, a new lease on his pro career. I was always a fan of Nicholas Walters, so I'm excited. And Adorno's a tough fight. He's a tough Philly fighter. He's going to bring it. He was once an undefeated prospect. He suffered a couple setbacks, but other than that, kid's going to be a tough fight, especially for your third fight back in 8 years.
Oh yeah. Well, they just got announced something. I was just looking, and yeah, apparently, they got a big event going March 30th, or kind of a big event. Zordo Ramirez, it's a title fight. Ramirez is fighting for the Cruiserweight Championship, the WBA title fight against Arsen Goulamirian, Olympian, 27-0, with 19 knockouts. But they're fighting March 30th, on the Zone in Inglewood, California. But on the undercard, they're actually putting, and I can't believe this. I looked and I had to do a triple take, and I'm like, what? They're putting Rocha, which is a good fighter. Alex Rocha got knocked out in his last fight. It was a big upset. They're putting him back in there with Frederick Lawson, who at the beginning of the year, suffered a knockout loss, and to the Victor Ortiz. Yeah, to Ortiz, and that big fight that the ref was, stopped in one round. Then sent a cryptic note or a message on Facebook saying that he had a brain aneurysm, and that's why he stopped the fight. Tony Weeks, and he caught a lot of hell about that. Golden Boy denied it. The commission kind of, it seemed like it was swept under the rug, and now all of a sudden, what is it? 2 months later, he's fighting again in one of the most strict, athletic commissions in California, and he's fighting Alex Rocha, who's coming off a knockout loss himself. That's a weird deal for me. You know much about this, Rufus?
I'll be honest with you, no, I do not. I just want to give the listeners an update. Tim is dealing with Elwood, the engineer, at the moment. So proceed with what you need to do, Doss.
Well, Elwood can be interesting sometimes. So, Elwood and Tim battle a lot. Elwood wins a lot and Tim wins sometimes. So maybe it's a good night for Tim, but we got his back anyway. But yeah, Alex Rocha, coming off that knockout loss, he bounces back against Frederick Lawson, and I'm gonna be honest with you, this stinks to high heaven. It's in California. California is the strictest one of the strictest commissions. I don't understand how Tony Weeks can say on Facebook, he had a brain aneurysm, or it came up, that he had, several doctors. One said he had one, the other one said he didn't, and then he stops the fight in like 45 seconds, not about 2 months ago, because of this, and he put it on his Facebook because of this aneurysm, and he had to stop this fight quick. and now they're putting him in against Rocha again. Or they're putting him against Rocha now on a televised co-main event on DAZN. The zone is raising their rates. If you have Facebook or Twitter or anything, you see a lot of lawyers are coming out and saying, have you got the zone in the last 3 years? If you do, you're gonna be compensated because there was a class action lawsuit against the zone. And now what did they do? They raised their rates, and then now they throw Lawson back in there after 2 months ago, almost possibly getting killed according to Tony Weeks, and then nothing but silence, and now he's going to be co-headlining. Man, something's wrong, and the commission needs to look at this guy, before they actually blast it on, all the websites that this fight's a done deal, because this fight needs to be a long way from done, until they figure out what's going on with Lawson, because man, you can't have that happen and then have all this crazy circumstances happen, and then expect the boxing fans to be okay with it. I mean, this guy's life could be on the line. Definitely, the commission should check this out before anything, before anybody announces anything. I mean, 24 was not a good year for Lawson. It might not be a good year at all if he fights, Rocha after what happened with Weeks. What if everything he said is true? I wanted to put that out there. But Rufus, after this, what I want to talk about, it, man. It's we have more boxing, from tomorrow to Friday, and then we got, of course, UFC 299, which a lot of people, boxing fans and MMA people are looking forward to. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to it, but I'm really looking forward. Saudi Arabia, Friday, my God, Anthony Joshua, Francis Ngannou. We talked about it. We touched base, several times. What is your final pick, Mr. Bethaba?
Well, it's like I told Tim on the last few shows that this can go one of three different ways, and really 2 out of 3 is going to favor Anthony Joshua. Either Francis is going to pull off another great performance but end up losing by the skin of his teeth, or Joshua is going to flatten him. I'm kind of leaning more toward Francis performing better than people think, just slightly. But the thing of it is even if Joshua knocks him out, if it goes beyond 5 rounds in a 10-round fight, it's not going to really look good for boxing or Anthony Joshua anyway. Let's be honest about that.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, I still think Anthony Joshua, like I said before, he's trained for this fight like a title fight, and he better, because Francis Ngannou's no joke. He showed that against Tyson Fury, even though Tyson Fury was not the Tyson Fury that I really thought, I'm used to seeing. I'm sure it wasn't the same that you're used to seeing. Dude didn't act like, seemed like he trained for a week in that fight, maybe even a day. He definitely looked past Ngannou. It drew a blueprint, in my opinion, for Anthony Joshua, not to look past him. I think he's trained. This is his career. But not only is this his career, this is Ngannou's career. And Ngannou gets knocked out in 2 rounds, his career's over. It's not, and I think his career in MMA is over. Because to be honest with you, him getting beat by AJ with such ease proved that Tyson Fury was a fluke. Proved that a boxer that trained for an MMA guy. It's that basic MMA versus boxing again, like James Toney and Randy Couture. They won that one, but Couture got him on the ground in what, 10 seconds. Basically proved that a good boxer can beat a great MMA guy. And there's no luster there. He's already lost, even though he didn't get lose in the cage, and he has a deal with PFL still, I believe he does. It knocks the luster off. It ain't that shiny new toy anymore to me. Ngannou has that about him. He didn't really get beat in a lot of people's eyes, but if he gets knocked out, his career's over. And if Joshua gets knocked out, his career is over. So, I mean, there's a lot at stake here. I'm just glad that, Turk, is it, what's his name? The guy in Saudi?
Turkey Al-Sheikh.
Turkey Al-Sheikh. He has that money. that he can make it happen. If it wasn't for his money, I don't feel we'd be seeing this fight right now because it won't, he wants to see it. And the fights that he wants to see, ironically, I don't mind seeing too because I'm a boxing fan. You're a boxing fan. I'm just glad that he put his money together. And I think it's going to make money. I don't think it's going to make, it might not make as much as people think. I don't understand, why it's at 11 o'clock in the United States on a Friday. A lot of people ain't going to see it. They got to work. They got, things to take care of in their daily lives. It's going to be the replays are going to do great, but I think this should be a Saturday fight. But I understand with UFC 299, that's another reason why it's on a Friday. But to me, when you have that kind of money and you just want to see the fights, you don't really care when it's going to be as long as you're seeing it. And I'm just glad that he put the money together that we're going to have it, and we actually have a pretty good card too.
Oh, the undercard, especially the co-main event, Parker and Zhang, that really has all the markings for a heavyweight fight of the year, as far as I'm concerned.
Cool.
But I do disagree with you, though, on the assertion that Ngannou's career would be over if he got knocked out. Because, they already set up that major tournament in Saudi Arabia between Bellator and the other rival promotion to where it's the two best, going up to face Ngannou next. So Ngannou is locked in, as the top MMA man in the world, even if he loses, no matter what. So.
Yeah, but if he gets knocked out against, Anthony Joshua in 1 or 2 rounds, gets blown out, I still think the luster's going to be lost a little bit. I mean, just to me, on the mainstream
I'm not exactly sure on that because this is, after all, an MMA guy. And if he loses in a boxing match in that kind of way, people would be like, well, hell, Tyson Fury didn't prepare at all, and shit. And people can rationalize it in their mind, well, his wheelhouse is MMA. It's not really boxing. But I will say this, though, with Ngannou. I think the lesson he learned from the Fury fight is the moment you have somebody hurt, you jump on their ass and you stay on their ass. So if he has Joshua hurt at any point, I think he's going to throw everything but the kitchen sink. And that's what's going to make it interesting.
And also make him wide open for counter punches. And he's still, he's shown some skill in there, Rufus, but against, and you got to remember, AJ is a hell of a counter puncher. He can counter punch.
No, that is true.
He starts off with his right, though. If he lands his right first, it could be over for Ngannou, but he can be also open for counter punches. That's how he lost to Andrew Ruiz. He had Ruiz hurt, man. He got countered, in the middle. He had him hurt. He jumped on him again. He got countered by Ruiz, and that's what gave him his first loss. And Roy started, tumbling into the house of cards for him, a couple years back. That's what really started this was, fighting a good counterpuncher. If Ngannou can counter, Joshua, and he does jump, too quick, anything can happen. Do I think that Joshua learned from this? Oh yeah, he learned from Ruiz. Do I think that Ngannou is a better counterpuncher or just as good as Ruiz? No, I think Ruiz is a very good counterpuncher. I just can't see Ngannou landing like he did against Tyson Fury. I think, and you have to admit, you might disagree with me on, Ngannou's MMA career being over or a career being over, period. But Joshua's career is definitely over if he loses against Ngannou. It is done. He's cooked.
There ain't no doubt. There is no doubt in my mind that his career would effectively be over. And I kind of wonder, I made a post on Facebook a few weeks ago, and I said, a lot of people say Anthony Joshua is back, but is he really? And the question, because he struggled with Jermaine Franklin, it took him really much longer than it should have to put away Robert Helenius. But everybody's acting because of the Otto Wallen fight He's made this big turnaround. But I look at it like this. Was it really a matter of Joshua whooping his ass because Joshua got better? Or was it because Otto Wallen failed to show up because he bought into this mindset that Joshua was mentally and emotionally fucking gone when he really wasn't? You
I
know,
think it was body shots. The body shots. I don't think Otto Wally really, realized that AJ was going to go to the body like he did. I think it's the fact that AJ had a lot of success with Otto Wally in the amateurs. Kind of already knew that style. I think there was a lot of factors. He knew he could beat Otto Wally. They already proved that. I think they sparred together. He got the best of the sparring sessions back in the day. I think he knew he was better. Does he know he's better against Ngannou? It's a confidence thing too. But I think that Wallin definitely rose his confidence. I think he's hungry. I think it made him more hungry in this fight. Definitely make him hungry. You better make him hungry. Um, but I think his styles make fights too. But I think AJ trains again. Trains his ass off against a guy like Ngannou. There's no way he should lose that fight. But he has been proven before, and it is the heavyweight division, and I don't care what people say. One thing about, for instance, Ngannou, that dude can punch, man. That dude can punch, and he can erase any heavyweight on any given day. Can erase another heavyweight. Everybody knows that. Even some of the lighter punching heavyweights, Chris Berg could pack a punch if he landed it right. I mean, you got to remember, you're talking about 230 to 250 to up to your 300 pounds. For Ngannou. Ngannou's what, 270 ish, 280? Rufus.
he,
He's big.
well, usually like in the UFC, the weight limit at super heavyweight, I think is 265. So they're really cutting down to 265. So he's
A
probably
lot
like
of muscle.
280 pounds solid muscle, really.
Oh yeah, yeah. So and I don't care how skilled or unskilled you are, in boxing. If you land a clear punch on anybody, especially a guy with a kind of a, that's been known to have a little, chin issues back in the day, um, you're gonna do some damage. It don't matter who you are. And I just think that, AJ knows this. AJ's been preparing for this. I just think AJ, and I wouldn't be shocked if he hits the body, if he starts, hitting the body early, going to the bank. But then again, I wouldn't be shocked if he just launches that right hand and blitzes it too. I mean, there's several things. I kind of thought the same with Tyson Fury, but it didn't happen. So I want to be proved wrong. I definitely do because I think that, we're all the boxing fans and MMA fans, deserve to be treated. Let's see what happens.
Like I would point out where a lot of MMA guys have failed going into boxing. The one thing Nagano has brought in was actual boxing footwork. Almost all of these guys who have ever tried it, they were great from the waist up, but they had no fucking footwork. Nagano actually brought in that boxing footwork where other guys haven't. And one thing that's smart about Nagano is if somebody's throwing a punch at him, he's throwing a punch on the inside or the outside of that other person's punch at the same time. Nagano's very good at timing people, even if he ain't the fastest man that there is in that ring. So if I was Joshua, I would try to take him out as quick as I could, to see, to disrupt any type of plan Nagano had. But that might also be Joshua's undoing.
Downfall. There you go. Then that brings the intrigue, of the fight. Because, like I said before, Andrew Ruiz, the whole downfall of Joshua's career up to this point, before he met Usyk, was Andrew Ruiz countering him after he got hit with that. He got dropped. He got dropped and then he got up and then, he jumped all over him and then he got caught in the middle of of a you know, of action between both guys. He got countered beautifully and he never recovered from it. I mean, he's always showed, being hurt and coming back, just like against Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir had him messed up, but he came back and he knocked him out. That's the one time that that didn't happen. The rematch he went and straight out. He outboxed Ruiz, but his whole mindset was outboxing. it seems like now he's kind of getting, back in the swing of things, kind of, brawling and boxing. He don't mind to get into the flurries with the guys and get in on the inside and do a little inside action. He's just now getting back out of that. With Usyk, he did the same thing, but Usyk had him hurt a little bit, Rufus. So anything can happen, my man. Anything.
No,
So,
it is true. It is
but
true. And this, go ahead.
my other question, I want to see, does Joseph Parker, like everybody's been talking about with Zhang, does he get banged Friday in Saudi Arabia? Does Joseph Parker get banged by Zhang? Because since Zhang wants to bang everybody, that's what he said on he said in the interview, I want to bang everybody. I will bang you. And he's saying he's gonna bang Joseph Parker. Rufus, is Parker getting banged?
Well, a lot of people are high on Joseph Parker at the moment because of what he did with Deontay Wilder. But a lot of people are trying to undermine that, saying that Wilder is over the hill, gone, shot, whatever. I don't think that's necessarily the case, as it is that Wilder hadn't fought in so long that he was rusty. If he had another fight, he would knock that rust off quick. But Parker has always demonstrated from time to time that he's had great head movement, great foot speed, but he's been inconsistent the last few years, but he seems to be getting his rhythm again. Kind of like Anthony Joshua getting his rhythm with Ben Davidson, so ever since he's hooked up with Andy Lee, Joseph Parker has really got his rhythm. And I'll tell you, with these big men, whether they're southpaws or not, if they can't hit you, they can't hurt you. So if you're constantly moving and you're working angles and everything else, I think we might see a very competitive fight, just like Wilder and Parker was, to where there will be flash moments, but I'm kind of leaning towards Joseph to pull off the upset, perhaps.
Well, the only problem with me is, I mean, you got to remember the Joe Joyce fight. Joe Joyce is a big guy, 270 pounds, or he was lower. He was 250, I think, when he fought Parker. But he's, tall, big, just overpowered. But he's a straightforward guy, and you can drop whatever you want to on him. He's just coming at you. Well, Zhang is a lot like that too, but he's a lefty. But he can come right forward. He does throw good counter shots. He's just a strong dude though, and that's the one thing that beat Parker to begin with. Deontay Wilder's a totally different guy. He's tall. He starts it with one shot or a good counter shot. Very powerful, but he's not always going right through, his opponent. He gave Joseph Parker a lot of room, but he usually does. But he could lose a couple rounds or he could just kind of back off, but one punch usually can change everything. That's a whole different thing with Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce just went right through Parker. And I think if any fighter can do that, unlike Joe, it's going to be the same with Zhang. Zhang could go right through him. Now, Willie, it seems like he kind of starts things out. He don't always go straight forward, but he can. And I think that's going to be his game plan, just like the Joe Joyce fight, winning against Parker. I think he's going to just plod forward, kind of like reminiscent back in the day, how you talked about Tyson Fury with Steve Cunningham. I know you don't want me to bring that fight up, but weighing on your guy, 6, 7 rounds of 200, almost 80 pounds, just weighing on you, then getting you against the ropes, knocking you out. I think that's definitely going to be Zhang's game plan. Parker should know that, but can Parker do anything about it? Because he didn't against Joe Joyce. Can he do it against Zhang?
I believe the game plan really with Zhang, because if you notice with Zhang, the longer fights go, the more tired he gets, the more clumsy he gets. I think with Joe, he would want to try to stay around and make the big man chase him, maybe for 4 or 5 rounds, and then start trying to pick him off and everything. That would really be the game plan that I would say for Joseph Parker. And whenever the big man comes in, chop him down to the belly, you know. But we got to remember, Zhang is not no spring chicken. The man's like 40
No,
years
not at
old
all.
and
Exactly.
everything. And even though he's on this upward trajectory, how long is he going to really last? Because, I mean, I remember when George Foreman was old, when he was 40, and everything. So I'm like, how long can these guys really go? And I think one
Zhang
day,
started late, though. I mean, kind of started late. I mean, I think he was an Olympian. He didn't take, all, 10 years off. And, he's kind of been going for a while. So, he might be a hard 40. I mean, it didn't look that way in his fight with Joyce, his back-to-back fights with Joyce. But then again, he hasn't
but
been
then
12
again,
rounds
Joe
in a long
Joyce was
time.
always there to be hit, though.
Perfect game plan is just punching. That's all you got to do against Joe Joyce. Is
I
just throw
love
punches.
Joe Joyce. I love Joe Joyce, but the man had about as much defense as a punching bag.
Well, he was
So
Homer Simpson. He
it
was
was
Homer Simpson.
sooner or later, a titanium jaw is going to collapse, and that's what
Oh,
happened with Joe Joyce.
exactly. And we predicted it. I predicted it for a while, and Zhang was that guy. And I predicted that he was going to get knocked out in the rematch, and he did. And it was brutal. But you got to remember, Joe Joyce came in almost 25 pounds heavier from when he fought, Zhang the first time, and it was only 6 months, 5 months, after the first fight. And so that told me he wasn't ready at all for that fight. Now Joseph
No,
Parker was a lot more prepared.
when the rematch happened, I thought automatically in my head back to when we had Franny Smith on ATG Radio, and we were talking about David Price, and Tony Thompson. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this man is going to get obliterated, and you know it, and you all ought to be prosecuted, for putting this guy in the rematch that soon, and that's exactly what happened. Joe Joyce got kind of exposed like David Price did.
And I don't know if Joe Joyce will ever come back from that. I mean, he's fighting. I think here in a couple months. He's not fighting a top guy. I mean, forget who he's fighting. I think
Isn't
he's
it like
fighting
Cash Ali or some shit
Cash
like that?
Ali. Yeah, yeah. And I think he's that guy. I mean, he has a good chin. He's a big guy, but he don't throw a lot of punches, and he does just enough to lose sometimes. He's not that guy. He's a guy perfect. His first loss was against David Price, and that was David Price, coming off a loss. So, or coming off a win at back-to-back losses, excuse me. And that's the kind of guy David Price had to come back with. He won that fight. That's exactly what they're looking for Joe Joyce. And Joe Joyce is going to win that fight too. But is he going to be on that world level? I don't know. I really can't tell you that. It was some brutal, losses to Zhang. Do I think that Parker's going to lose that way? No, I think it's going to be, it could be a chess match. Joseph Parker is looking to make it a chess match. I mean, there's no way I don't think he's going to come forward and try to knock out Zhang. Now, will he try to knock him out later on in the fight after he gassed him out? Oh, most definitely. He could do it. You know, Depends on how gassed out, he can make Zhang. But Zhang's confidence is high, man. He's actually a world champion. A lot of people might not say that, but he does have the interim WBO title, but to a fighter, like Zhang. Zhang has been around a long time. Never had anything like that happen. Used to fight on top ranked undercards. Dude, he was a sideshow attraction. That's what he was. He was kind of just
No,
like a
he was promoted more like a Godzilla type attraction,
that.
really, a big giant Chinaman, really, and
Yeah,
but he's come a long way from being in the amateurs. I think he was in the Olympics himself, um,
he was.
but failed because he was on the uh, same year as Joshua in the Olympics, I
Yeah.
believe.
But they didn't start him off like a world championship caliber guy. They were just kind of like a sideshow, like an attraction, kind of like a butterbean esque kind of guy, like I talked about last time we were talking about this. But now he's got, an interim belt, but to him, that's huge, dude. And his hunger is there. He's coming off, the biggest win of his career, back to back. I can't wait. I think this could be fight of the night.
Oh, definitely. I think it will shock a lot of people, and I think it will probably be one of the better fights of the year among the heavyweights, as far as I'm concerned. And welcome back, Timmy. What's your predictions on AJ Nagano and Parker Zhang?
I think AJ is going to not walk him down. I think it's going to be a pretty one-sided. It's going to be a different fight than we've seen in the Fury fight, right? We're going to have a determined chip on his shoulder, former heavyweight champion trying to prove himself, trying to destroy the person that made his biggest rivalry look bad in the ring. So he's going to prepare. He's going to train to walk through this guy, and I think that's what he's going to do. I mean, there's always a chance for Nagano to hit that one punch and put him to the ground like we see Andy Ruiz did. But I think AJ's taking this incredibly seriously, and that's something that Fury didn't do. And we're going to see a whole different fight. As for Zhang and Parker, I think Zhang is just gonna handle business. I've been extremely impressed by him, especially with the Joe Joyce fights. He came in as the underdog. He showed what he's made of, but he's not getting any younger, so he needs these big fights now. He needs to get past Parker if he wants to get a title shot. And, I mean, this is his chance. He's on the big stage.
I'm going to be very surprised to see what he weighs tomorrow.
But these are some fights I'm excited about. I'm excited for this card. I haven't been super excited for a card in it feels like a while. So I'm ready to see this. I'm ready to see it feels like an old Don King pay-per-view. All the heavyweights going head to head. And I'm excited.
And you got to give props to the Saudis, at least when it comes to building up the fights with the trailers. That whole Street Fighter fucking theme, for Francis Ngannou and Joshua was badass. It's not as badass as the Fury Usyk promo, but it's pretty good.
That was awesome. Both of them are awesome, but the Fury Usyk one, holy shit, man. If you don't get geared up from watching that promo, you're dead inside. That's all I got to say.
But I'll tell you what I hate about boxing in a lot of ways is how rematch clauses are absolutely choking the sport to death, to where if Joseph Parker beats Zhang, he's got to give Zhang like an automatic rematch and everything and shit. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Or even like Fury Usyk itself. If Fury beat Usyk, don't we all want to see Fury versus AJ instead of a rematch,
Look, if it's a close fight, I don't mind seeing them running back right away. But most of these times, it's somebody that got knocked out cleanly, and they're executing that rematch clause. Like, I was glad when Canelo didn't do it. I'm glad when Spence didn't do it. But I do tend to agree with you. For the most part, it's not good. It holds up fights, but there should be something in the contract like, all right, if it's a split decision, if it's a draw or something like that, majority decision, we'll run it back. And that should be the extent of the rematch clause. But if somebody knocks somebody out in the first round, there shouldn't be a fight.
There should be a level there, Tim, definitely. There should be a stipulation. But you know what I hate? As much as I hate rematch clauses, I hate champions in recess. That's another thing that I can't stand.
What about silver champions?
Well, I'm not real big. I mean,
What about global
it ain't gold, it ain't.
What about the WBC global title?
I can go for that. It's the globe is the whole world, so
Where's it
it's
like
global. Trailer Park Championship, baby. If it ain't Trailer Park, it ain't nothing.
We should have made a sanctioning body.
I think we should. I think we still have time.
I say we make a sanctioning body and then we double up the amount of weight classes so we can make even more money.
Yeah,
You know, it only costs like
$500
$500 to actually to make like a sanctioning body.
We'll have like a heavyweight division, super heavyweight, ultra heavyweight, incredibly heavyweight,
We gotta do
super
a
bridgerweight, light
GoFundMe
bridgerweight.
to make to make a sanctioning body. Holy shit!
Hey, we got the acronym to make a great sanctioning body, but
I think we should do it.
we can have a LPC, Little People Championship.
Sign
You
me
know,
up.
that is something that probably should be, because what's smaller than atom weight? You know, we ought to make like a midget division.
You gotta say Little People.
You can say that.
Hey, I'm like Hervé Villachez, you know. If the guy who was screaming, de plane, called himself a midget, you know, it's okay.
Hey, they brought back the R word. The M word can come back too. That's just my thought. You know, you can say R now. I'm not going to say it, but you know, but you can say R. You can say M. And I just like the way Rufus says midget. That's just me. But number 3 on the card. Well, you could kind of say number 3. I mean, you got Ray Vargas versus Nick Ball. You know, featherweight championship, WBC title. You know, that's gonna be a good fight. But you have, you know, a heavyweight Justice Hooney, which is a pretty good fighter. I've seen him a couple times fighting Kevin Lorena, who was a cruiserweight, went to heavyweight, gave, you know, Dubois a hell of a fight and got knocked out. I think he dropped Daniel Dubois, twice, 3 times in the first round, and then he got knocked out in the third. That's going to be a good fight. Have you guys been following this? And if so, who you like in that fight?
Go right ahead, Big Timmy. That's all yours.
To be honest with you, I wasn't paying attention. What was the fight?
Justice Hooney versus Kevin Lorena, heavyweight.
I mean, Lorena always brings it tough. He was a cruiserweight, wasn't he?
Yeah, he came up and he almost knocked out Daniel Dubois, man. Dropped him twice or 3 times. First round.
He's a tough fight for anybody. He always brings a fight, whether he wins or loses. Yeah, I don't know much about the other guy that he's facing, so I'm gonna have to kind of default to Lorena.
And you and a lot of people. I mean, not a lot of people outside of Australia really know much about Hooney. Hooney's last fight, and the guy that you know, I'm sure you know, Tim, I know Rufus knows, Andrew Tabiti, the cruiserweight, used to fight out of Floyd Mayweather's TMT.
He beat Cunningham before, right?
Yeah, he beat him 10-round decision. It was pretty much a shutout, and that was in Cancun. And,
he was supposed to be one of that ill-fated Mayweather promotion stable.
Yeah. And now I don't even think he's with them anymore, but I mean, he's still a tough guy. But
no, remember all those guys? It was like Jalen Love, Tabiti, Liddell Bellows.
There's a couple more, yeah. And a big WTF of boxing now. Who the hell's that? You know, and they were supposed to be like the big stable when everybody left Mayweather. Shit. So. Jalen Love probably made the most splash only because he's training or co-training Jake Paul. So,
is he still?
I believe so. I think he's in the team. I mean, does he really need a trainer? I mean, BJ Flores could come back, you know, all 300 pounds, and you know, get back in there with Paul. Just if Paul's fighting guys like Borland, does he really need a trainer? I mean, he could like pull the George Foreman thing and just kind of sit in the corner by himself for a minute and get back up. I mean, he's not learning anything.
Who would you want to see Paul fight next? Who's a fighter that would be a good step up?
I'm gonna be honest with you. My opinion, you know, one of our alumni a couple of weeks ago mentioned it to me, and I kind of like it. Darnell Boone.
Yeah.
Darnell Boone is old as shit. but he's
I mean, he's
tougher.
not old as shit. He's like 41, 42 years old.
Is he? Wait, I'm gonna make
Maybe
trust him
44.
Google.
Somewhere between 40 and 44 years old.
That's a pretty big. That's 4 years, bro. That's a whole presidential term. Darnell Boone. Let me see. He is exactly. He was born in '80, so yeah, he's 43. January 21st, 1980. 44. 44 years old. Just freshly turned 44. So, you know. Do you think that fight happens? I don't think Jake Paul's going to go that deep. Bro. You don't go
That's
from
a
Ryan Borland to Darnell Boone.
that's a high risk, low reward type situation. That he would gain the respect of the diehard boxing fans though with that victory. People that know who Darnell Boone is, but your casual fans that follow Paul, that Paul's been bringing into the sport. What's Darnell's record?
24 and 25.
Right, they're gonna see that record and be like, absolutely the fuck not. But like us, yeah, the real boxing fans would jump all over that fight, probably pay for that fight. But
Good
like I said,
possibility.
there's YouTube people. They're going to see that record and be like, this is going to be an easy one." They would have to build up that backstory and put it all over social media. They got to replay him knocking down Andre Ward, some of his big upsets, and they got to. They're both from Cleveland, right?
Ohio. He's from Youngstown, but close enough. He lives in
Yeah,
Atlanta.
but you can have that fight at one of those
Ohio
where they had that last Paul fight in Cleveland. Probably
Oh,
saw
the
that
cup.
thing out.
Yeah, you could. I mean, hey, everything pretty much
Well,
sells itself with that one.
Well, my question is, what weight is Jake Paul exactly? You know,
Usually.
because could he really make light heavyweight, or could he go up a few pounds and fight heavyweight? You know, I mean, because wasn't like the Tommy Fury fight light heavyweight?
Thought it was cruiser. Because Tommy Fury got ranked at cruiserweight after that.
And all that. So for me, it's like, if I was to pick some sort of a fight, if he wanted to go maybe 5 pounds heavier, you know, I'd be like, hell, you should be fighting like Hasim Rahman Jr. You should be fighting Trey Lippy Morrison and people like that, you know.
I was about to mention Hasim Rahman Jr. I think that wouldn't shock me if that's the next fight. They almost had it made last time. It was made, and then
Who was Hasim Rockman Jr.'s mystery opponent? Did that happen yet?
I forgot. I forgot all about that, bro. Minnesota Stevens.
Greatest fighter
Tampa
ever.
Thomas.
You're gonna make me look this shit up. I never thought I'd be googling Hasim Rahman Jr. on a Wednesday evening.
Mystery
At
opponent.
9 o'clock. I clearly have nothing else to do with my life. Let me see. Is he even available? Let's see.
Or really, if I was going to suggest anything, it might be like Alan Babick. Because isn't he fighting?
I mean, this week we have Joshua Nagano. Next week we have Hasim Rockman Jr. versus the mystery opponent.
Oh, it's next week. Okay. Jesus. His nickname is Gold-Blooded.
Somebody named Odd Danny will be on that card.
Dude, he's 1-5?
Not Logan Paul versus not Jake Paul.
He's 1-5.
Who?
Oh, that's TCL Pro. Oh, Hasim Rahman Jr. Greg Hardy was the last guy to beat him. He hadn't fought since 22. That was the last fight. I would not mind seeing Jake Paul versus Greg Hardy.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. Oh yeah, Rockman got dusted by Morrison and Hardy back to back.
Man, that's a who's who of what the fucks.
Damn, that 1-5 in the TCL thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Michael Hunter
twice.
beat him.
That's
twice.
all right. I think I gotta start watching this TCL thing.
And you get beat by a guy named Skyler, you officially need to retire.
Skylar Lacey. Any relation?
I don't even care.
Definitely not. 100% not.
You lost to a guy, dude. You lost to a guy named Kanja, a guy named. Let me see.
There's some decent heavyweights in this. Scott
Bryce.
Alexander, Jerry Forrest.
Jerry Forrest would not be a bad opponent for Jake Paul. But that's
Jerry Forrest lost to both Michael Hunter and Skylar Lacey in this TCL Pro thing.
Isn't Joey DeWaco in that?
Yeah, we gotta get somebody on from there because, like, it's interesting.
They're just 1-round fights, right?
Are they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
And you're 1-5 in 1-round fights, and you got knocked out one time.
Oh well, you got to be a fast starter.
Yeah, that ain't good for Rockmon Jr. Yeah, wouldn't shock me. They still
Do they wear headgear or not?
That just makes it worse if they do. You got knocked out by a guy in a 1-round fight in 1 round with headgear on. Yeah.
It doesn't have a pro record either.
Yeah, 1-1. Let me see who.
The Kanja.
He got knocked out in 1 round.
He has no pro boxing record.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
I mean, Hasim Rahman Jr. was a decent prospect. I don't know.
Well, he had the name, dude. I mean, he had a hell of a damn name. His dad was a hell of a fighter. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Rockmon Sr. could still beat Jake Paul. That's the fight that should happen. Dust him off.
Well, hell, if we're going to go that route, you may as well have Jake Paul versus Roy Jones.
There you go. That's it.
No.
Sign me up.
No. Take my money. No.
You know Jake Paul going to win that fight.
Yeah, he win that fight, dude. He couldn't even beat what's his name, the MMA guy, the washed MMA guy. What's his name?
The MMA guy that was a lightweight in his prime, Anthony Pettis. Yeah.
Anthony Pettis, that's already washed, dude. He's washed in MMA. I mean, he's not all. I mean, he might not be washed, but he don't have as much left. And you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, Roy won that fight." Who cares? It got to the point where you don't know who won the fight. Roy would have knocked him out in 2 seconds back in the day. Roy got embarrassed by a 53-year-old at the time, Mike Tyson. I'm just saying, Mike Tyson could embarrass a lot of guys now, but he didn't look good against Mike. He looked even worse against, Pettis. I didn't think he won that fight. I think Pettis outworked him, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation if Roy was, wasn't as washed. I love Roy, but I don't want to see Jake Paul versus Roy Jones. But maybe
at least Roy got his win back in celebrity boxing against that YouTube guy right after the Pettis fight.
He fought a computer, dude.
No, it's a real person.
No, it was a computerized fight. It was a fake fight.
Yeah, it was a metaverse. They were actually boxing in the ring. It was just there was funny stuff around them on the screen.
Yeah, but funny stuff like not taking punches to the head.
He got his win back. Him versus Jake Paul.
He got a virtual win.
Or I'll tell you another, and it's a very inspirational story, really.
You're going to say Butterbean.
Is Butterbean. Him getting back into shape and everything, and he says he wants to fight Jake Paul because Jake Paul said, "I'm not a Butterbean attraction."
Did you say get
so for me, it's a natural fight.
He was never in shape, Rufus.
That's not a natural fight. Jake Paul would beat the dog shit out of him.
Butterbean's like 160 pounds.
And that's all due respect to Butterbean, but he's much older than he was when he was fighting. He has a lot of fights, a lot of fights. In boxing, MMA, probably kickboxing, like the dude has taken a lot of blows to the head.
He would fight anybody at any time, and he would probably fight Jake Paul, but no. He's lost a shit ton of weight, dude.
No, he did because he had to have surgery and shit like that. but he's down to like 270 some pounds or
Yeah,
less.
he's lower. I think he's like 200 and something, like maybe 190. He looked like, oh, dude, he's small. I think Jake.
All
would be
I
the
know,
bigger
all
guy.
I know is he's dead set on a comeback fight, and he wants Jake Paul.
Maybe he should start with Hasim Rahman Jr. first. You know,
I'd back Bean on it. Hell with it. I don't give a shit.
Jake can fight a lot. I mean,
I'm gonna have to change the show title to Butterbean versus Jake Paul.
that would. I would probably pay for that. I'm
I would
gonna
not.
switch it.
That would be a decimation. No.
I'd still probably drop some coin on it. I ain't gonna-
Because I could see Jake Paul getting cocky and trying to take him out.
Yeah.
And then Butterbean lands one stupid fucking shot and drops him right on his ass. I could see it.
That's a possibility. That is a possibility.
Shout out to Flawless. He just commented on the show saying, "Great to see ATG Radio back."
Great to be back.
Flawless was always a great host with Jesse Reekin. He really was.
Yeah, they did a couple different shows.
I wonder if like Jake Paul came back against like a real washed heavyweight, like a Robert Helenius or like Trevor Bryan, who never really was, but he could say he beat a former champ. Because wasn't Trevor Bryan like the Don King WBA, champion? He actually was a champion, for like a brief period. He beat Jonathan Gidry or Bermain Servain, washed Servain for a vacant.
I think Frezequendo is still the number one contender for that belt.
Oh, is he still the number one contender?
I don't know.
What is Manuel Charr still the number one guy?
Nah.
Because I know like Manuel Charr is still like in the top 10 or like number one or some shit in some organization.
You know what they need to do? They need to say, guys, we fucked up. Like you ever saw South Park, they're saying, we're sorry for making a, Jonathan Gidry and, Trevor Bryan are champions or, for a vacant belt. We're sorry, guys. It was bullshit. We're going to wash this clear. There's no vacant, interim WBA championship. The winner of Tyson Fury versus Usyk is a WBA champion. We're sorry. They should just say that shit and be done with it. Because I believe you are right. Charr is not the champion, but he's like fighting for that belt. Really? Charr hasn't fought. How long has it been since he fought? I even looked him up. I don't even really got the energy to look him up. But he shouldn't be fighting for a belt. And if I ain't mistaken, Oquendo probably can still even fight for that vacant belt against Charr. And he hasn't fought in 8 years?
Char's
Well, I
fighting.
think isn't he still like in legal battles over being the number one contender of some organization, Frezequendo?
No, it's a WBA, yeah. But actually, Char's fighting Pulev at the end of the month.
Oh, good God.
What's that going to be for the Arabic heavyweight title or something?
No, that's a WBA interim belt. That's a world interim title.
WBA World Heavyweight title is on the line. Let's fucking go.
Does it say world heavy? Oh my God, it's not even interim.
Let's fucking go.
Because they're making the winner of Tyson Fury versus Usyk the super champion or some super duper shit. WBA needs to be taken out.
I think that's what I've noticed something with the Saudis though, with like Badu Jack and a bunch of other people. They want like some Arabic Muslim guy to fight for the heavyweight title, is what the shit is. They're going to eventually set it up to where Manuel Charr fights Tyson Fury or some shit. I can see it.
No, they actually love boxing, so they're putting together better fights. I mean, yeah, they would want maybe somebody like that, but no way they're going to give say go to Charr and say we're going to give you $3 million to fight Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury ain't going to fight Charr. I hope that shit don't happen.
Hey, would that be an easy payday?
Hey, he
Oh,
fought
God.
Chisora for a third fucking time. And I love Tyson Fury to death, but you may as well fight fucking Char on top of
Yeah,
it.
but that's before he almost got beat by a fucking MMA guy, bro. A lot of people thought he got beat. You know, I didn't. I thought he won that fight, but it was a fight. You know, I don't think right now Tyson Fury, if he beats Usyk, which is a big if, but I still think he can do it because he's looking spectacular in the gym. I still think that if he wins that fight against Usyk, that he's not going to take no more bullshit fights. I don't think his career. I don't think he has enough time, especially after Ngannou.
I don't know. My
it's
personal opinion.
Joshua.
No, go ahead, Tim.
No, if he beats Usyk, it has to be Joshua. That's it. That's all that's left.
Yeah,
That's
and that's all
all
he
that
can get up
matters.
for. That's all he can
I
get up
could
Unless
see-
Ngannou beats Joshua, then yeah, run it back.
I could see Fury like beating Usyk, maybe fighting Joshua, and then dropping all the fucking belts, but not really retiring. So Fury would be like, I'm going to be 4-time heavyweight champion by fighting some complete shit can bum or something afterward. I could see that shit.
What gets me is where's the love for Daniel Dubois? I mean, Daniel Dubois almost, in a lot of people's eyes, knocks out Usyk with a
There we
body
go.
shot. I'm just saying, he was a WBA.
Don't be surprised.
World
Don't be
heavyweight champion.
surprised. Don't be
And now you
surprised
got-
if Frank has Fury fight like Dubois. Don't be surprised if it don't happen.
No, but I'm just wondering about Pulev versus Char. Dubois was the champion. He won that WBA title, but now he gave Usyk a good fight. I thought that I mean, a lot of people thought he might have quit later on, but I mean that shot was kind of in and out. It was a possibility. I thought it landed.
Hey, I like Dubois, but let's be honest, he got fucking stopped by a jab.
But he knocked out Big Baby, and that's a lot more than Char and Pulev have done in a long time. And he was the champion.
Other than him hitting like fucking Usyk on the belt line, he never was in the fight with Usyk.
Well, and also, let's see how Big Baby winds up in his next fight.
Well, speaking of Big Baby, the other Big Baby had a little bit of problems last week. Got into a car chase and got in some legal problems. He issued an apology. I don't know. I think he's still going to be fighting here pretty soon on that top ranked card. You guys hear about that? What are your thoughts? And do you think that the apology is valid? And do you still want to see him fight? I say let him fight. That's just me. Bad things happen to good people. He needs to get out of his environment, and he needs to focus on boxing. And they did a segment with Roy Jones. I think he needs to go to Roy Jones and hang out with him for a couple months because he still has a lot of talent. Did you guys hear about Big Baby Anderson, and what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, shit happens. I'm not going to dig into his personal situation, but let him fight.
Rufus, what do you think?
What exactly did he do?
He was in a car chase, and he wouldn't stop, and he got in some trouble, got arrested. He's had a couple run-ins with the law lately, but I think he's still close to home. The guy still has talent. I don't think the fight's off, but I didn't know if you heard about it or not, but it was a car chase.
I did see like his like mugshot and shit like that, but I didn't know what it was. I guess as long as he wasn't fucking killing somebody, raping somebody, beating the shit out of somebody, whatever. I'm like, I mean, it's a fucking idiot running away from the cops, whatever and shit, but
Should have got caught.
I hope he needs a faster car, but I was wondering what he was driving.
But what I don't get is these guys who are basically superstars making a bunch of money and shit. Why you got to act like a fucking idiot?
Well, he's keeping closer. He needs to get out of Toledo. That's for one. for another, they did a segment with Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. is a good kind of guy, to be with, man. I mean, Roy can really guide him the right way. He needs somebody that really wants to help him in his career, but he needs to want to help himself. And he does have talent, even though I thought that that Martin fight was really kind of a blueprint how to beat him. He can get better. I wish him all the luck, man. I mean, we're rooting for you with ATG. I hope you get better, big baby. But I still want to see the meetings of the big babies. And both guys have been in legal trouble, and both guys have been in, kind of on a collision course. I want to see that fight still. Big baby versus bigger baby.
Yeah, I'd watch that. Fight for the nickname.
I mean, don't take my money or nothing, but I'd still watch it on ESPN.
I'm glad you put that asterisk next to it, Thomas.
Yeah, please. You can't have my money. Not that.
That's another thing that kills me about boxing anymore is everything's got to be a pay-per-view. Everybody thinks they're a fucking star. And I'm like, no, motherfucker. Most of these fights should be undercard fights and on fucking television for free.
But dude, you want to talk about take my money? Saudi. That's the kind of shit, but the problem is it's on a Friday at 11 o'clock in the afternoon or before noon. It's 11 o'clock a.m.
That's I wanted to watch the Elimination Chamber the other morning, or the other last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and it was in Australia. It was 5 o'clock in the fucking morning.
Yeah, but you didn't have to pay shit. You had Peacock. You had Peacock though. Ain't like you're dropping
to make somebody wake up that early.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. But I mean, dude, the card they have, you got Joshua Ngannou, of course. You got Zhang Parker. You got Ray Vargas versus Nick Ball, which is a very, very good featherweight fight. You got Madrimov versus Kurinov for the vacant WBA super welterweight title. You got mid-level. Even UK fights. You got Chamberlain versus Gwynn. You got McCann versus Green. You got Hooney versus Lorena we were talking about. You got Roman Fury, the brother of Tyson Fury, in his fourth fight against the undefeated 2-0 guy. You got about everything. Plus, you got the smaller undercard fights. You got undefeated guys, versus decent caliber. It is like a Don King card. One of them older 1990s Don King card, the best boxing ever.
I think you're blowing it up a little bigger than what it is, Toss.
What was that card where Larry Donald beat Evander Holyfield?
That was in Cleveland. Or no, wait, that was Cleveland, New York City. It was the Madison Square Garden.
There was like 4 heavyweight fights on that card.
I'm gonna have to bust it out. My boy Larry. That is the fight that made Don King hate him. Don King hated Larry after that fight, dude. And then I remember we had a fight. We were in Cleveland for an undercard fight, and he weighed in. I think it was a weigh-in. And right after it, he had an abscessed tooth, and he had to pull out of the fight.
Oh, that's right. It was Chris Bird versus Shamil McCline, Holyfield versus Donald, Ruiz versus Galata, Rockman versus Meehan, McCall versus Williamson. And then the undercard.
I'm looking at another one that I remember with Don King.
McCall.
Let me see. Had the undercard of one of Don King's, like not even a big card, one of his smaller cards. I think it was Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. versus Miguel Angel Gonzalez. And the undercard was Ricardo Lopez versus Rosendo Alvarez. And I'm like, if you know like little guys, you're like, holy shit. I never thought that fight would happen. And it did. And I'm trying to look back at the other fights on that card.
Wasn't Ricardo Lopez the guy who retired 50-0 and 2 or something like that?
51-0 and 1. He actually the first fight with Alvarez was a technical draw, which he avenged in the rematch. And it was still a close fight in the rematch. But Alvarez was that guy. He was like the guy that could give him, It was Alvarez. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Let's see.
Anytime I see them Floyd Mayweather memes talking about him being like 50-0, I'm like, man, I remember fucking Ricardo Lopez and all these other people with better records than that shit. You know, everything.
Yeah, but dude, Lopez was a very, very good fighter, bro. Very good fighter. I'm trying to remember the card though. It was in Mexico. It was in Mexico
I mean,
City.
people disagree with me, but in my opinion, Pernell Whitaker was the best defensive fighter I ever seen in my lifetime. Fuck Floyd.
Like Loche was good and Willie Pep. So you know,
Well, I said in my lifetime.
in your
Yeah.
lifetime. I thought you were
Fucking Pernell Whitaker, unlike Floyd, could actually turn it on and be offensive and shit like that.
Yeah.
Floyd was only offensive when he was like a lightweight, but when he went up in weight, he ran away the whole fucking time.
He broke his hands like 6 or 7 times, Rufus. I mean, that'll make somebody change their whole game, you know.
I never thought I'd see you being an apologist for fucking Floyd Mayweather, but here we are in 2024.
Well, that's just me, man. You know,
Floyd, big time Timmy must be conferring with Elwood, the engineer.
Hey, Elwood's good, man. Tim's good.
Any other any other shit coming down the pipe, Duff?
There's quite a bit, man. Looking at my schedule here, I mean, still, I love that Friday card, but I just don't know how it's going to be with pay-per-views. But after that, really not a whole lot. But before that, tomorrow, everybody that has ESPN Plus, there's a great fight from Canada, or great card. It's I think it's got who's it got? Can't remember who it is. I'm looking back. It's from Montreal. It's Onius Iglesias versus Marcelo Caceres, and Stephen Butler versus Steve Rawls. That's going to be a good back-to-back, little card. There's some undefeated guys on the undercard, but Iglesias is a dude. He's a hell of a Cuban fighter. He's one of them Cubans that went to Germany. He left Cuba, went to Germany. Uh, he's 9-0, I think. 8 knockouts. The guy's been on fire. He's knocking out guys overseas. Of course, he's not. I don't think he's ever fought in the States yet. Just the first time.
If he was smart, he would stay the fuck away from the United States. I don't know what it is, but every time a fucking Cuban comes over to America, they go down the fucking toilet.
It's called McDonald's, dude. It's called, just all the luxuries that you don't have. I mean, but you have that in Germany too. I think they got McDonald's in Germany, and they got different. It depends on the person. And
yeah, but you got to admit, like in Europe, like the class division is so much more obvious over there than it is here. You could be on the poverty level here in America and still have a fucking cell phone and a TV and other shit. But if you go over to Europe, if you're poor, everybody knows you're fucking poor. That's just the way it is.
But you see, Caceres, went 10 rounds against Berlanga. He went 10 rounds against another guy from Montreal, Eric Bazanian. Bazanian's a good fighter. Bazanian couldn't knock him out. He just got knocked out in his last fight against Diego Pacheco, and that dude is very, very quite possibly a future world champion. Pacheco could fight. I think he's 20-0 now, possibly 21-0. I think he's 20. He's got a fight scheduled here in April against undefeated Sean McCallum, and that's going to be in Las Vegas, and that's going to be a WC USA title fight. But still, Pacheco could fight, man. Duke can punch. So he just lost that last fight, but he's been on a run before that, and he went 10, gave Berlanga a hell of a fight. It was a very close fight too with Berlanga, and just lost by a couple points. So this is going to be a good fight and a good measuring stick for Iglesias. And one thing, Rufus, they also have McDonald's in Montreal, and they got Tim Hortons too. So he better watch the hell out. That fast food, man.
You know, I
But
do
that
have a question, unrelated a bit to all this shit. But you know boxing as well as I do. We all have big knowledge. What was your thoughts like on Teflio Stevenson? Was he really one of the greatest amateurs all time, or was he overrated?
just like him and Felix Savone. Felix Savone was up there too. They were great fighters. Tilafimo, could have went pro, could have had a hell of a pro career. Would he have beat Muhammad Ali? No. They were trying to match him against Ali. That wouldn't happen. But he was up there. He had the size, he had the stick, had the reach. I mean, it depends on himself, but he could have been something. Could he won a belt? Maybe not in the 70s or 80s, but could he win a belt now? Pretty damn sure he could. If Manuel fucking Char can win a belt, or Pulev can win a belt, Teofilo Stevenson would definitely be a world champion. So it depends on what kind of time range, what kind of age range we're talking about, time frame. He could be a champion. Would he have been a champion back when Ali was champion? No, I don't see that happening. It was just too. You had Ernest Shavers, you had Frazier, you had Ali, you had Norton. Now would he have beat a guy like Norton? Possibly, because if heavyweight hits you, you can go down any given punch. But would he beat Ali? No. The talent pool was just too deep back then. But could he have been a champion? Of course. Yeah, he was good, man. Felix Savone.
I always wonder though, because when you have these guys like in Cuba, no offense, some of them are the greatest boxers I've ever seen. At least technically speaking, even if they don't make it far, they have like so much talent. Then for whatever reason, it don't come to fruition. But a lot of these guys, like Teflio Stevenson, you look at his amateur record and shit, and you come to find out most of the guys he was knocking out on the island was a bunch of fucking teenagers, and shit. So it kind of always makes you wonder how good were they really, in a way.
I'm gonna tell you what, like Felix Savone. Felix Savone was right up there in my opinion with Tio. He was one of the best. He was one of the best amateurs or heavyweight amateurs that ever lived. I mean, he beat David Tua. He beat Luis Ortiz. I mean, I can just look through his record. And there was even some with box truck. I don't know if they got them all listed, but he had almost 300 amateur fights. And I think he beat Shannon Briggs. He beat some major league. Lamont Brewster, he knocked him out in amateurs. Most of the guys that had success when they went pro, Felix Savone beat them. And that says a lot. Savone, he beat Luan Kranziski, who was a
Wasn't he like
PWBO
the first
champion.
guy to be like gold medalist 4 times?
I think he won twice or 3, or he was going for a third. I can't remember.
No, I think he had to have been like a third, but he was going for a 4th, I think.
Something
But I think
like
he might have
that.
come up short or something.
I mean, he beat
But
like Devera Williamson. He beat Luis Ortiz. He beat Solis. He beat Ruslan Chagayev, who was a champion. I mean, he had the who's who, of resumes. I mean, it was just insane how many good guys this beat. Like I said, he also knocked out David Tua, in the first round, I believe. It's a shame that, a lot of these guys are so loyal to their government or to their country. And, in the end, the country kind of turns their back on them. I mean, Tio was the same way. Savone was the same way. They're loyal. And then I believe if you ever, there's a great documentary on Teofimo Stevenson. And they talk about, at the end of his career, they gave him a bicycle. And all the years of, all the gold medals, all the fame that he brought to Cuba, he has this bicycle and he's living in a shack. And he died pretty much penniless. That really blows me away with talent like that.
no, for me, I will always say communism is not just evil. In some cases, it's a mental disease. But I think with Teflio Stevenson, he was one of them guys. I think he wouldn't say it outright, but I think he said it in his own way. How can I get paid millions of dollars when my fellow countrymen are basically living in poverty? he couldn't do it because of all of his neighbors and shit being poor, you know. But
And you gotta respect a guy like that, but you also gotta think, well, if you do it, you're making an example for future people to do the same thing in your country.
but I'm also reminded of the tragedy that was Laszlo Papp. You know, he was the three-time gold medalist, and he could have been, in my view, the middleweight champion of the world. But the Hungarian government at that time was communist, and they told him he couldn't fight for the title, or they would
I
have
think he
killed his
retired.
family, or they would have
Well,
killed
he
his
retired.
family or some other shit. So he couldn't do it.
Yeah, he retired undefeated, I believe. 26-0, or was it 26-1? I can't remember.
He was high up there. I think he had like 30 fights, but he was going to face the Iron Man, Tony Zale, I believe, for the title. He was right up in that mix. I'll tell you what would have been an all-time good fight had it been made was like Pap versus Marcel Cerdan. That would have been a great one.
Oh yeah, but Cerdan versus LaMotta in the rematch would have been. I mean, would have been great, dude. Cerdan was a hell of a fighter.
Oh yeah, he'll always go down in my estimation the greatest European middleweight of all time.
Yeah, so unfortunate. And I think he was what? Was he in his early 30s when the plane wreck happened? The plane crash that killed him?
It was something like that.
Late 20s?
He had like 104 wins. You know, I think he only had like maybe like 4 or 5 losses, if even that. He blew out his shoulder against LaMotta. He got healed up. He was going to have the rematch, and the plane fucking crashed, you know. So who knows? I think LaMotta was there for the taking, you know, because once LaMotta won the title, I think he kind of just threw all caution to the wind, kind of, or whatever. But
speaking about Savone, like I was talking before, I also got to throw in Ray Mercer and Andrew Galata. He also beat. So he had one of the best amateur resumes ever. And Tito's
I would probably put that up there at the very top as far as a who's list. But at the same time, are we exactly talking about amateurs like Teflio Stevenson, where it was more like pro boxing rules, or this later rules that happened to where it was like you could knock somebody down and that's 3 points, but then you could hit them with 3 jabs and be back to even and shit, you know, kind of boxing.
I got his fight. I have his fight on DVD with David too. He knocked him out. First round.
No, I know, but you know what I mean. For a time, amateur boxing was pretty fucked up with the rules.
Right, so standing 8 counts. Yeah, I mean, people did lay flat on their, on their back. I mean, he had that rocket. I mean, I believe he did Shannon Briggs. There was a couple that he, was he going to do that to Ray Mercer? No. But Ray Mercer being a future gold medalist and then being a champion, I mean, that's impressive. With Shannon Briggs and Lamont Mercer and all them guys, plus you add in Ray Mercer, and you add in David Tua, and then you add in, Andrew Galata. That's pretty damn impressive.
But no, I've always wondered a lot of the time with the different people whether they really were the goods or if it was just because they were like a big fish in a small pond in a way. But no. What do you think about the back and forth drama between Clarissa Shields and Chris Cyborg?
Oh, well, it might not be popular opinion. To be honest with you, I think Cyborg could actually do. She's strong, man. Now, is she a boxer? No, but she stands up most of her fights. She doesn't know how to stand up. And Clarissa Shields, she was dropped by a guy. I don't inspiring, but it was a guy that dropped her with a hell of a left hook. So I mean, I think if that guy could drop her in sparring, I don't think I think if Chris Cyborg lands, kind of like Ngannou with Joshua, anything's possible. I do think, but unlike Ngannou, she's had some boxing fights. Is she a two-time gold medalist? No. But Clarissa Shields, man, she's just calling everybody and anybody. She's dying to get a payday. I Calling out Keith Thurman, calling out, you know, Cyborg, fighting PFL. She's got her hands in everything right now. And to be honest with you, I just wish she would shut up and fight. Quit talking shit, prove it in the ring. Do you have to prove it, that much? No, you're a world champion. You're a two-time gold medalist. You're very talented at what you do, but it makes you ugly. The more you talk, the more guys you call out. I can beat this guy. I can be that guy. She called out Keith Thurman. Is she calling out Tim Zoo? No, you don't hear that part. You know, but fight people in your own class, the women's class. If Chris Cyborg's part of that, go beat her. Don't talk shit. Just beat her. Talk shit with your hands and leave your mouth at home. I just get tired of that. We hear it all the time. Somebody else got tired of it. It's a sparring partner in Vegas that ended up saying, you know what? I got receipts. You're going to talk shit? Here you go. I dropped you with a left hook. Not only did he drop her, he knocked her out on her back. So that makes other people want to see that. The more you talk, you know, can she be more graceful? Of course. She can be loved by a lot of people, but I think she likes being the bad guy or the bad guy. And she has too much talent. She's a two-time gold medalist, man. She should have more grace than that. And I wish she would just go beat Chris Cyborg, make the fight happen, and leave it at that. Tim, what do you think about Chris Cyborg and Clarissa Shields?
That should be Jake Paul's next opponent.
Clarissa Shields or Cyborg?
Clarissa Shields. But no, I mean it's a good crossover fight. Cyborg's getting some wins in boxing. I think it's definitely a fight that should happen. It will draw money. It'll probably be a career high payday for Clarissa Shields. So it makes sense. If it makes money, it makes sense.
What do you think the chance of that fight actually happening on?
Eventually, it will definitely happen. Cyborg wants it, so I don't understand how that fight doesn't get made. It's just, especially, yeah. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest draws in women's boxing that can happen today.
I think it's going to be one of them PFL, boxing, Jake Paul kind of deals. Because you got to remember, Bellator just got bought out by PFL. Who owned Chris Cyborg? Bellator. Who owns her now? I think PFL. Harrison's going to UFC. Yeah.
The guy he's fighting Joshua, and then he has a fight with PFL.
So
PFL's a
landmark match.
When it comes to MMA fighters, PFL's the place to go. You can do crossover, you can do boxing, you can have your own sponsors.
I agree. No, I think
they just unified all the best fighters that weren't in the UFC.
Rufus, what do you think about that?
Well, as far as Clarissa Shields and Chris Cyborg goes, this has been going on for a number of years, them back and forth. I think it might have been 2018, 2019, somewhere around there, that the two of them sparred for quite a number of rounds, and Clarissa Shields just sang the praises of Chris Cyborg at the time, because that was when Clarissa was wanting to also go into MMA and everything. Cyborg, I think, should have made the jump to boxing many years ago when she was doing Muay Thai / kickboxing matches with people like Jarena Bars. She took Jarena Bars to the limit, and Jarena Bars was undefeated for like 10 years. Jarena Bars won, but it demonstrated that Cyborg is best on her 2 feet punching. So I think if they were to fight, it would go the distance, because Clarissa Shields ain't going to stop her. But it's like Cyborg pointed out recently, because Clarissa Shields wanted Cyborg to move up in weight to fight her. But Cyborg's like, well, Carissa Shields lost a little bit of that booty meat that she's got, that she could make the weight to fight her